Well, welcome to the No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm Dom Genova. Every Saturday here, 10 to 11, right here on News Radio WHAM 1180. And all the past shows are on NoNonsenseRoundtable.com, whenever you want to see them. And I have a fella here that I've just wanted to meet for a long time. His name is James Gilbert. He is the morning meteorologist on Channel 8, WROC TV, and a delightful guy to watch on TV. And I just want to have him in and get to know him a little bit better. I think you guys are going to be delighted to know him, too.
Dom, I'm so happy to be here. I appreciate you having me on your show, and I'm looking forward to this.
And I love your name. It's not Jim Gilbert. I mean, it's James Gilbert. It's like 007. It's not what's your name?
Yeah.
Jim Bond. It wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the same.
It would not work well. There's very select few people that called me Jim. Maybe my middle school football coach. I think I was Jim to him, and then a couple other people. But yeah, stick with James. I don't know. You know, my mom tried to call me Jay. She was going for Jay, but the story she likes to tell is I used to say, "That's not my name." And so I was James from there on out.
Yeah, the only time I got called Dominic was when I was in trouble.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Dom was it. And then I knew that Mom was ticked off at me. Dominic! Yeah, okay, fine. I did something wrong. So, morning, getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you have to have a smile on your face no matter what, right?
Yeah, it's required, certainly. And, you know, in the news, it's oftentimes not so happy, not so smiley, but it's the summertime in Rochester. Everybody's in such a great mood. And generally in the mornings, we're not talking about storms and things like that. So, yeah, I try to put on a happy face. I usually am a pretty happy person in general. I like to smile. I like to push my smile on other people, whether or not they want it. And I think starting off the day when you know it's going to be upper 70s, mostly sunny skies, low humidity, it's going to be a beautiful day. I try to push that out there. It's been a little dry lately. I don't know if you've noticed that around here. I wish we could have some more rain. So some people certainly hope for that. But yeah, positivity, I think it's super important as a meteorologist, kind of just in general.
I'm going to give you an expression my wife invented, and I think she will not be unhappy that I told you this. She calls it in the winter, you look up and there's a concrete sky.
The steel gray.
Yeah. Although I heard you on the other day thanking the Great Lakes. I mean, that's kind of...
Yeah.
Thank you. You want to tell that story?
Yeah.
What was it?
Gosh.
We don't have a drought here.
Yeah. Oh man, the national news out of the West is yikes. They are dying for rain. They've got the wildfires. Because you get so many people moving into one area. The Great Salt Lake, for example, Salt Lake City, they're running out of water. Basically, it's not looking good. And then you look north in Rochester and you see beautiful Lake Ontario. No chance to run out of water as well. It's an amazing freshwater source. And so I say, thank you, Great Lakes. I mean, and you go to the Finger Lakes as well, Canisius. I think we get a lot of our water from Hemlock Lake as well. Yeah. I mean, you go down to Hemlock, forget about it. It's one of the most beautiful places in the country.
So the question I always like to ask is was this a straight path? Did you want to be a meteorologist since you were like 10 years old?
I think 10 years old, it was the typical, I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a cop. I want to work for NASA. I had no idea at that age. But I did know early. But I think by middle school, I really kind of found an affinity to weather, loved clouds. I really enjoyed snow. The first snowfall. I would grab the dining room chair and just put it like on the porch and just sit there in a snowsuit and just watch the snow fall. So that passion started in middle school, kind of carried over into high school, and I loved talking about it as well. So I was kind of interested in broadcasting too. And so it kind of hooked. I think, I applied to only schools that had meteorology programs and then found SUNY Oswego right down the road that obviously had a lot of snow. So I went there for college, got a degree in meteorology, and that kind of transitioned over to into the profession.
So, I mean, how many kids would be in a meteorology major?
Yeah, well, when I got there as a freshman, it started off at about 50 to 60 kids.
Whoa!
Yeah. It's a pretty well-known program. You got Al Roker, graduated from SUNY Oswego. So that was my freshman year. We started off at 50 to 60, but by my senior year, I graduated with about 15 kids. So there was a real weeding out, so to speak, of those that declared meteorology as their graduate degree. And I would say probably the number one reason is the math. The math bites.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Bites a lot of people because you have to take every single calculus class in order to get a meteorology degree. Calc 1, Calc 2, differential equations. Don't want to get too sciencey
No.
in here,
I want to hear about this.
Yeah.
You're educating me. I had no idea.
Yeah. So to get a meteorology degree, it's basically atmospheric science. It's very physics involved. And there's a ton of, you think about all the data that's involved in going into some of these computer models. Those are all equations and derived equations from approximations that we make. So those equations are all based in physics. And so in order to know physics, you have to know math. I have a math minor on top of my meteorology degree. And my counselor in college was like, all I had to do to get a math minor was take a stats class. My senior year, they're like, look, you can get a minor if you just take a stats class. I'm like, sign me up. So I kind of stumbled into a math minor just because you have to take so many classes required.
I'm fascinated by that because, I think the general public goes, oh, you get there and you get to take your meteorology class and you rip and read something from the Weather Channel and you get in front of a green screen and there you go, there's your degree.
Right, or
not quite it.
Or somebody behind the scenes behind me tells me what to say, and then I report it on the weather. No, we do it all. We do the forecasting, we do the analysis, we do the broadcasting, and not to get too complicated, but I'll give you a brief example. Jet streams. You've heard of jet streams in the air, air currents moving overhead. Well, based on how a jet stream is either accelerating or decelerating, that can generate rising or sinking motion. And when you have rising motion, that's when you get condensation, that's when you get clouds, that's when you get rain. That's all driven by physics. We can make all those different calculations as to how the atmosphere works in that way, and then measure the atmosphere, get approximations, put them in the equations, and then that spits out a forecast.
So these kids that are going for the degree in meteorology, now is everybody looking to get a job in media like you, or are they doing other things in
No, lots of options.
The field.
Lots of options for meteorology. So you can work for the National Weather Service. You can work government. You can work public or private. Public would be the National Weather Service. For example, our office is in Buffalo. There's an office in Binghamton. There's an office in Albany. You can also work for the federal government. And then you've got private companies. You've got AccuWeather. You've got certain companies that may forecast for people that plow or agriculture certainly has their own private forecast. A lot of companies are just hiring for forecasters just for their own specific company. RG&E has meteorologists on their team. Yeah.
I can see the need for agriculture and whatever. And tell me more about this. I guess it must be people working for the FAA and
yes.
Whatever. So
yeah. You have certainly for aviation, it's extremely important. And usually you'll have one major weather company, AccuWeather, for example, and then they have businesses that they would work with to give them a specific forecast. Some companies need exact specific forecasts for, let's say, their cattle only performs in a certain time. They have to milk their cows at a certain time based on the weather. They'll need that specific forecast for that job. Well,
fascinating stuff. And when we get back, I'm going to ask you about, the competitive nature of your business. And we're going to talk about that right after this. Well, welcome back. You're listening to No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm Dom Genova here with James Gilbert. What's your name, sir? Gilbert. James. Yes. I love that name. I just love your name.
Is that how I should introduce myself on TV?
Gilbert. James Gilbert. With a martini and a cigarette, and you got the whole thing.
Anytime Allie Peters sends it over to me, I'd be like, Allie, it's Gilbert. James Gilbert.
James Gilbert. So you're on WROC Channel 8, and it's the team you can trust.
Yes.
Okay, so here's the gotcha question.
Yeah.
Tell me the teams you can't trust.
The other guys.
I like it. It's nice and concise. The team The team you can trust.
Yes.
And that's getting to a point that I want to make, is that when you watch one of your broadcasts, and I'm not saying exclusively your broadcast, because there are other stations that are do this as well. Yeah. But it seems like the personalities are personalities. Like you all like each other, and you get along and whatever. Sure. It just seems like somebody put this all together on purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I've heard stories, actually. Knock on wood, all of my coworkers have always been great. I did a little bit of weekend work. I did a bunch of evenings as well. I loved working with Adam Chodak. I know you've talked to Teresa Marsenberg in the past. Mm-hmm. I've only worked with her a couple of times, but every time I have. Allie and I have been doing mornings for several months now, and it's been great. She's fantastic. Mark Gruba was just a phenomenal coworker. Him and I worked together for a couple of years now. And, I have a newborn son, 18 months old, and Mark's got 3 kids, all in their teens. So I loved kind of hearing from him and joking about the experiences that I am currently going through now, and then what he went through. And I think we worked off that. So like you said, it is so important to have those relationships. And I've heard stories where, the anchor, the meteorologist, maybe didn't see eye to eye to a couple times. And it might make for some uncomfortable situations.
But you can't expect human beings to.
Yes.
It's like anything else. You every once in a while there might be a little bit of a thunderstorm with somebody, but then hopefully it comes and it goes, and you get over it, and hold grudges and stuff like that. But you guys hang out together at all? The answer is no. Okay.
Mostly, I don't hang out with a lot of people.
No. Well, not with a child that young. I mean, no. So when he cries in the middle of the night, I mean, you're getting up even though you're,
Ideally, I'm out of the house. I'm out of the house already. Yeah. No, my wife and I have a great system right now. So she has a flexible schedule. She's able to work in the afternoons. I work in the mornings. So we're not doing childcare right now. I've got my son Mason all afternoon, which is great. I get home at 1 o'clock, and it's just him and me hanging out, go to the park, playground, just hanging out.
Yeah. My philosophy about kids is that, you look in their eyes and they're supposed to be here. There's something about your children.
Magical.
You look at your child, and how God got that child to you. I don't care if it's adopted or part of your bloodline or not, but that child that you care for, there's some bond there. It really is.
He's just starting to talk. He's just getting some words in. Mom, Dad. He likes tractors. Whenever he sees a tractor, it could be a truck. It could be like an 18-wheeler or something. Tractor. And like you said, it is really a magical time, and I feel special. I feel special. I feel lucky that I'm able to spend that much time with her.
Yeah. You have a job you can do that. Do you care to say what your wife does?
She's an occupational therapist.
Oh, God bless her. That's great.
Yeah, and pediatric occupational therapist. So she knows a ton about kids, and she works with appointments. So she's got her times, a lot of times in the afternoon, and then I pick them up later in the day. So it works out great. And it's funny, I know things are going to be so different when he goes to school and when he goes to preschool and school. So we'll see how things change once he gets a little bit older.
No, I have this thing. When they get to the point where you can go to dinner and drinking and like hanging out with them, your relationship changes, and rather than being the authoritarian, you become kind of their friend, but their mentor and whatever. It's really cool. My girls are 30 and 33 right now, and they're different, and I just love them both, and it's just the meaning of life. Now, tell me about going to Oswego. I mean, you were Oswego, but you spent some time in Virginia, right?
I did, yeah. So that's where my first job was, actually. I went down to Virginia. Graduated 2013 from Oswego in the spring, and it was basically, I've got a 5-minute video of me, kind of a highlight James Gilbert reel, and I'm just blasting that out to anywhere in the country, pretty much. Got to find a job somewhere. And I didn't get a lot of bites. No one was wanting me. So it was a job at the Vona's. If you've ever been to Oswego, the Italian restaurant I'm talking about. Did some busing there. I worked at Dunkin' Donuts. I worked at Stewart's Shops. I was selling gasoline and, odd jobs.
Whatever you have to do.
Not weather, that's for sure. Right. So that was about 6 months messing around. And then finally I landed a job down in Virginia, and then worked there for several years. And then the opportunity was available to come
Okay,
back.
so what were you doing in Virginia?
TV.
Really? Good.
Yeah. I was doing TV. So this station down there saw my video, picked me up, moved down there, did weather for 3 years, and then came back up here.
So you were single down there?
I had ex-girlfriend, girlfriend at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you got your break, I guess they would call it. I mean, no matter what station it was. And just tell me about being down there. Where in Virginia?
So I was in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Okay.
That was actually technically my second job. So you ready for a little story time here, Dom?
Yeah, we got like 2 minutes here. Go ahead.
Okay, so moved down to Virginia with my girlfriend at the time, and I got to a station, TV3 in Winchester, Virginia, on the very northern tip of Virginia. Mm-hmm. I walk in, and things are going pretty well. I get about 3 weeks in the job. Get an email, there's a morning meeting. Okay, what does this mean? A morning meeting, walk into the morning meeting. The regional vice president comes in and says, this station is shut down immediately. Pack your things. There will be no 6 o'clock news. It was Great Television was the company that owned it. And that station was not making money. Sales was not making money for a year and a half or something like that. Nobody knew it, not even the news director. I'm just this new guy that walked in a few weeks earlier. Mm-hmm. And the entire station was shut down after I had just completely moved my entire life down to Virginia. So that was a nerve-wracking experience. Welcome to TV. And then, luckily, to finish that story, the company had another opening in Charlottesville, and that's when I moved down there.
Oh. So did anybody say that you were responsible for that? You get there, and 3 weeks later, the place is closed. Does anybody blame you for that? Because I know they blame you when it rains on their wedding day. I mean, do they blame you for the whole shutdown of the station?
It kind of felt like it. But no, it was
that's good.
A wild experience. Luckily, I landed on my feet. 3 years later, job opened up in Rochester, and I had to come back home.
Oh, yeah. This is a great place to live.
Oh.
I talk about it all the time. And we like you, we moved from down south. We were in Charlotte, North Carolina. But the moving expense back up this way is really cheap because it's a backload.
Yeah. You know,
nobody's traveling this other way, but they should.
Charlotte, man, a lot of people are moving down there, though.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a city that's growing.
Yeah, I know. Back in 1983, we moved there in 1986. 1983 was a dry town, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, things changed since then. So we're about ready to head into the news break, and we'll see everybody after the news break. Well, welcome back. You're listening to No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm Dom Genova, your host, every Saturday, 10 to 11, right here on News Radio Wham 1180. And we're here today with James Gilbert, the morning meteorologist at WROC Channel 8. And welcome. Good to see you.
I'm glad to be here.
So look out the window. What do we got going on? What do we have going on out there?
I would say mostly cloudy skies. It was a little humid this morning, muggy out there certainly, but some 90s, I think, for the rest of the month. I think we'll get there a couple more times.
Yeah, the great thing about being here, though, is that actually it's a negative that's a positive.
Yeah.
The winters are so bad, you really appreciate the summers. I mean, you lived down south for a while, and the weather was so nice. We were living in Charlotte for a long time. The weather was so nice, you really didn't appreciate the weather. I mean, here you get this thing where you suffer. Yeah.
Right.
So when you get that relief, it feels good.
A little bit of pain.
Yeah, a little bit of pain. So at the bottom of the hour, I'd like to give a shout out to the Bob Johnson Auto Group, who sponsors the show, and a great place to buy a car or truck or get a car or truck fixed. And people who now own the dealerships that I started years ago, Genesee Valley Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Genesee Valley Ford. And when you need something automotive, the Bob Johnson Auto Group is certainly the place to go. So, James, let's talk a little bit about office politics. So, Mr. Sneidel here is the chief.
Eric, yep.
Yeah, Eric is the chief meteorologist. Now, that's a generally accepted term, chief meteorologist, right?
Chief meteorologist, yeah.
Why is it called chief? Why isn't head or, what? Why is it, you have any idea why is it chief meteorologist?
That's a great question. I don't know. I guess, head meteorologist? I don't know.
I don't know. It doesn't. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you report to him? Like you got to go get him coffee in the morning and stuff? I mean, is there like a chain of command here where...
Yeah, I mean, sure. I guess if I wanted a day off, I might give him a call.
Does he do your personnel review?
Yes. Yeah,
pretty
much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
I would say that. Yeah. I've got him, and I've got the news director, and then certainly the general manager. Basically, I guess would be kind of how we'd go through the line. So I'm in the mornings. So I go and I do the morning show, and then I do the noon show. And I'm out of the building about 1 o'clock or so. And then he comes in pretty much right after me at 2 o'clock. So there's about an hour difference where, and let's say there's storms in the forecast, then we will high five. I will wait until those storms move through, because what we call babysitting radar, technically. We watch radar and see where these storms are moving. Let's say if they go severe, that's when we either jump on Facebook Live or maybe even cut into programming if that so desires. If you'll remember, there was a tornado in Wyoming County a couple of days ago, EF2 storm. We were on TV for 35 minutes during that storm. And that's just part of our weather duties. So back to this shift change. I leave the building in the afternoon. Eric pretty much walks in right when I get in, and then he's there through the 11 o'clock show at night.
He was on the show quite a while ago on the Roundtable, and he's been all over the place. I mean, he was like what? He was a broadcaster in Nicaragua or something. I mean, he's been Alaska. He was Alaska. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
That's got to be easy. It's cold and dark,
or cold and still bright.
Yes.
Depending on the season. Right.
Yeah. That's it. You got the cold part down, so 50% of it. Now, do you have like box scores like like baseball, like your batting average for the precipitation or not or whatever? I mean, is there a way of judging this really?
We do. Yeah, we like to measure exactly what our how our forecasts do every morning at about 6:10 or so. I review how I did the previous day. So
really,
right on air. I do it on TV. I say I went 87. We got to 86 or 85 today. I was off by a couple degrees, and I might give a little explanation. Oh, it looks like there was maybe a little bit more cloud cover. So, I was a little bit too warm. I had a warm bias or a cold bias. And I think it's important in life for everybody to reflect and see how you did yourself in a certain job so you can be better, right?
Okay. Now, you were doing the quiz for a while.
I was doing a morning quiz.
What happened to the morning quiz?
Did you like the quiz?
I love the quiz.
Oh, man. Okay. Yeah. Maybe I'll have to bring it back. We're switched. We do kind of back and forth. We're doing News 8 Celebrates now. Yeah. So we give shout outs to people for birthdays and things like anniversaries. So.
Well, the thing about the quiz is that you could pare it down to like one question rather than having the 3 questions. So
sure.
like, this is kind of cool. Like, what are they going to ask me today? And, my wife and I would be like, I think this, I think that. You're wrong. No, I was right. And you have this. It was really a lot of fun. But I could see, you're on air 5 days, 5 days a week, right. And you have to come up with hundreds of these things.
I was coming up with a lot of questions, and I'll talk to my higher ups about it.
Well, have Eric give me a call.
Yeah, right.
The
quiz. Yeah.
Well, the quiz, but that's
was fun.
But it is fun. But there's it's fake news. There's no fake weather. I mean, it's the weather. It is or it isn't. It's facts and figures. Is right. Math and logic. Whatever. Except for we got to get into it because this is like the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
We got to get into the global warming thing. Now, there's 2 theories about global warming, and global warming. I don't care who causes it or whatever. This is the thing. Is that we need to do something about it because it is a problem, and people are saying it's too late. We can't do anything about it, and you might as well put up a wall around Manhattan Island because it's just going to happen. So, what's your feeling about this?
Okay, so let's put global warming under an umbrella of climate change in general. So, global warming is really just one aspect. Global warming is simply the average temperature of the Earth going up. That's it. Period. We also have sea level rise, so that's a separate thing that's under the umbrella of climate change. And the umbrella of climate change is being driven by increased carbon dioxide levels, which is measured. So there's this Mauna Loa Observatory in Hawaii that we use to measure carbon dioxide, and that's just one of the very first areas we started measuring carbon dioxide. So we've been able to measure carbon dioxide using that one observatory, and now we've gotten really good. So we can use satellites, we can use other observations across the entire globe of carbon dioxide, right? So that's, since we'll say the 50s and then on, we've been able to measure carbon dioxide very, very well. What we've also been able to do is take these ice cores, for example, and take a long ice core, go all the way down, say, 500 meters, for example, cut it out, and then look into that ice core, and then look at the little tiny air bubbles that are in that ice core and say, well, back in the 1800s, the carbon dioxide levels were this. Back in the 1700s, the carbon dioxide levels were this. And we've been able to go back an incredibly long period of time, hundreds of thousands of years, to see what the carbon dioxide levels are. And we can verify that with tree ring data, and there's like peat moss, like bogs and things like that. So we take all this data from across the world and we put it all together and we get this fancy little graph of carbon dioxide that goes up and down and up and down and up and down. And now we've been able to measure carbon dioxide levels over the past 50 to 100 years, also to a very high degree of accuracy. So we have a great record of carbon dioxide. And what we see is the carbon dioxide levels that are currently now, which is about 420 parts per million-ish, is significantly higher than what we've had for the past 800,000 years, maybe longer. So we know with high confidence that we have a way more carbon dioxide than we've ever had into the atmosphere. And then we look at what the global temperature is. And the global temperature is significantly higher than it has been, and it rapidly got there very quickly. The only real explanation for that is not volcanoes, it's negligible. It's not the sun, that's also negligible. So carbon dioxide is really the only explanation. We're looking for another reason. Give me a general variability reason why we're seeing this warming. And the only answer is an increase in carbon dioxide. So that's the problem. Can we figure out how to reduce the carbon dioxide to maybe fix some of these problems that we're seeing now?
And that is the question we're going to get more into when we come back from this break. Well, welcome back. Listen to No Nonsense Roundtable. We're here today with James Gilbert, the morning meteorologist at WROC TV, the team you can trust.
Right. Trust us, yes.
Trust us. And we were talking about global warming. So here's the other side of that question, though. Is it too late to do anything? I mean, the problem I see is that it's like trying to control the chemicals in a fish tank. I mean, you can't do part of it. I mean, the United States can't be taking on all this heavy lifting, and then you have India or China that's not. I mean, what's your read on this thing?
Yeah, sure. That's a good point. If you look at the emissions of all countries, we've certainly we're top of the line when it comes to emissions over the longest period of time. If you go back in the 70s and 80s and you look at our emissions compared to China and India, it pales in comparison. We're certainly number one in emissions. And, if you told a smoker that was smoking for 30 years and they're like, what's the point of quitting? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You say, I think you should probably quit. Maybe you might be able to, it's something like that. I gotcha. So I like to think about that. Yeah. If we can pollute less, shouldn't we try?
And that's a very good point. Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't we pollute less? And also, I like to be the leader. I like when the United States is number one.
Well,
so let's lead in trying to reduce pollution.
Well, the place is certainly, the United States is a hell of a lot cleaner than it was when I was a young man back in 1970, 71. And, it was the Cuyahoga River caught on fire because of the pollution or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Speaking of being a young man, how old are you? You look like, you look very, very, how old are you?
Well, I figured when I turned 30 years old that I should probably have a kid. So I'm 31 now.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, 31 years old, yeah.
The shoes I'm wearing are older than you. I mean, my Lord.
I'm back in Rochester, plan on having a long career here.
Well, that's good. Well, so you've had your child at a very appropriate age. I mean,
thank you.
You have a
good house now.
Good paying job, the American dream.
It does feel like that. It's weird how it rolled like that, but here we are.
Yeah. So, is your wife from here too?
She's a Syracuse, Cazenovia, actually, to be more specific, out of Syracuse.
Oh, my wife's from Baldwinsville.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, like neighbors. We should get together sometime. When the weather's nice.
Yes, right. Yeah. When the weather's nice. Yeah, no, she's from Cazenovia. She went to Nazareth, and we met.
How'd you meet?
At a bar.
I was hoping there'd be a more creative answer than that. Yeah.
Look, you know what? I did. I tried.
Oh, that's luck, though. That's good.
It's how many times do you hear people say that these days, though? It's a pretty rare way to meet.
Well, yeah. Well, now you have online and
exactly.
other stuff to meet people. So let me ask you a question that I like asking people every once in a while. Tell me what you're most proud of, but you can't mention your family, her, anything. What is the thing you look back on? You go, wow, I'm not to brag, but
yeah, sure. I have obviously I think my degree I was certainly pretty proud of. I was pretty close. There was a couple of times in college when I was like, I don't know if I can do this. We already had the math discussion. I also am a certified broadcast meteorologist through the American Meteorological Society. And it's that little tiny little tag thing that you see next to my name whenever you watch on TV, you see that. And it may mean absolutely nothing to the viewers. But for what it's worth, it means that I was reviewed and judged by a group of my colleagues, my peers from across the country, and based on not only passing an exam, but also my work on television, that, they kind of gave me a stamp of approval, a certification that kind of gives me the okay by their standards to be a broadcaster. So that meant a lot to me. I think that's probably one of my best accomplishments.
They can't take that away from you. I mean...
no.
You go. They can't. Once you get that, they can't impeach you.
No. Well, I got to keep paying my dues.
Well, hold on. That begs an interesting question. Did you ever have a forecast that you absolutely blew?
Oh,
it was terrible. Just
I do. Yeah, here's a good one. So I don't know if you remember, but there was a Bills game against the Indianapolis Colts. It was a couple of years ago. It was a massive snowstorm, and the field was covered in like 1.5 feet of snow. So Prescott Rossi, the old sports anchor at the time, looks to me and he says, "How's the Bills game tomorrow? Looks like there could be some snow." I'm like, "No, the snow band will be a couple miles north of the stadium." Just totally brushed it off. Thought the stadium was going to get completely missed. You watch it, is the Snow Bowl of the century. You can't even see the players on the field. And the Lake Effect Snow Band off Erie was sitting over Orchard Park. And I was like, just hand on the forehead, just like, oh, what did I do? Thank God it was for Buffalo, not Rochester.
Okay, so the next day, so what you're telling me is the next day, Snidel says, "Come into my office." Right? He has a piece of paper and a pen, and he's like, yesterday, you really blew it. Yeah.
Well,
the Bills fans must have been ticked off at you, right?
Well, gosh, I think they were excited. It was an exciting game.
Yeah.
You don't get that too often.
Yeah.
It's very rare to see the snow. You might get that a little bit in Green Bay.
Yeah.
The Vikings, their stadium's indoor, so they're not getting any of that weather. You could probably get that a little bit in Gillette, at New England. But Buffalo is the spot where you can get those just crazy snow bowls where you can barely see the ball in the air because the lake effect.
Did you ever have one that you called that nobody else called?
That I called that nobody else called. I think there's been times when we've done snow coverage, and there have been a couple of storms where you always glance over at the other guys, kind of see what they're thinking, seeing if we're on the same page. And generally, as it hones in on snowstorms, they are generally pretty similar, but there have definitely been times where, we'll say, I don't think this is going to materialize. I think there's going to be a little sleet maybe mixed in there. There might be a little bit of freezing rain, so I don't think we're going to get that 6 to 10 inches. And then maybe the other guys are still thinking it's going to be all snow, and then we might get a little bit of a win here and there. But you try to stay humble about it.
What amazes me sometimes is the accuracy that you can have in a forecast. Well, it's going to snow, on Oak Street between number 45 and number 306. Sure. And there's and you guys are right. I mean, it's just amazing to me what you can do with these models these days.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And I'm. You think about how much better it was compared to just a few decades ago. And I think it's important also for us to explain what we can't forecast. We might be able to forecast a certain range or, the realm of possibilities. Here's the possibility. This is what's the most likely. This is what's the least likely. But I still want to tell you what could potentially happen just so the viewer is prepared for the worst and maybe hoping for the best.
So other than being on this radio show, what's the most fun you've had?
The most fun I've had. I skydived.
You skydived?
That was a good time. Yeah. I went skydiving once. It was for the Geneseo Air Show. It was through work. They were like, "Hey, James, you want to go skydiving to help promote the air show?" And I'm like, I'm putting my vest on.
Were you strapped to somebody, or you just throw you out of the plane? Okay,
I was.
Like President Bush there.
Yes, yeah, right. Tandem.
Yeah.
So that was pretty amazing. I got married in my front yard. That was pretty special.
Okay.
It was a COVID wedding. So it was.
God bless you. That's good.
It went from about 160 people pretty quickly down to 30 people.
Okay.
Got married in 2020, and so that was a pretty special moment in life.
Okay, and last question, stupid question, okay? Yeah. You're in front of a green screen, so you can't wear green.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
So do you have, like, in your closet at home, do you have green stuff or you don't have no green stuff?
I have a green tie that I think I got for Christmas that I'll wear for like a wedding or something like that. But no, I really do not have any green shirts. I have no green suits. Yeah. You know, it's interesting with chroma walls. Sometimes a little bit of blue can key out. So don't wear blue either.
Yeah. And you don't want a strobe. No matter what, you don't want a strobe.
No.
Well, thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
This has been delightful knowing you, and safe journey home in a beautiful summer day. And everybody, thank you for listening. And of course, we'll be here next Saturday, 10 to 11, right here on News Radio Wham 1180. Well, thanks for watching this YouTube. If you liked it, please like and share.